Hi, welcome everybody. I want to welcome you to the free ABA tax section webinar on helping families access the child tax credit and other tax credits. My name is Julie DeVola and I'm chair of the section. This session will feature the section's collaboration with Code for America, and you'll learn about their trailblazing efforts in through their Get Your Refund program during this session today. First, just a note of housekeeping. We're in a webinar format, and that means that your questions are going to have to come in through the Q&A or the chat functions. Ideally, you'll put them in through the Q&A function, and the presenters will, to the extent they don't get to the questions during the session, there'll be a little bit of time at the end, and Matt Mitchell from Code for America will pose some of those questions to the panelists. So just a minute about the section and our pro bono and public service outreach. It's a very fundamentally important aspect of what we do at the ABA tax section, and Sherry Dillon's our vice chair for pro bono and outreach, and Meg Newman, who you can see here, is our counsel. Both are forces of nature, and Meg's going to be posting some helpful information. Most importantly, I think, her contact information. So if you have questions about getting more involved with the section's pro bono and public service activities, please reach out to Meg. And there are also please reach out to the Code for America folks who will have their contact information in the chat function as well. So the fact that you're attending this webinar tells me that you probably already know why tax and pro bono and public service is really important, but I'm just going to take a minute to touch on that. In the US, we don't have any real social safety net beyond things like Social Security, which is very limited as far as, only for the elderly or for families who, where the breadwinner is disabled or dead. And there's huge vulnerable populations who don't have support. And, for better or for worse, the support that's going to those folks is coming increasingly through our tax system. In light of the pandemic, that fact is more true now than ever. It's been recognized that tax provisions often favor the wealthy, but there's a lot of things that we're going to be talking about today, and particularly the child tax credit, but there's also the earned income tax credit, where those features of the tax system disproportionately help vulnerable populations, and particularly women and people of color. So we also recognize that during the pandemic, it's those vulnerable populations that have been harmed the most. I think a recent census showed that 1/3 of the families in America with children during the pandemic felt that they didn't have security in terms of like fundamental expenses like food and rent. And so these things like the child tax credit are actually delivering some of those much needed benefits. The child tax credit alone is revised. It's been estimated that it should reduce child poverty in America by close to 50%. So the one thing about the tax system, as anybody who's involved in the tax system, like I think you probably all are, know, is that it's very complicated. And that's even more reason why those of us who can help navigate that system reach out and help populations who both don't have the experience with the system and who mistrust it. So I think this work that we're doing is just critically important, and I want to thank everybody for participating today in this webinar. So Scott, I'm going to turn it to you.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, I'm Scott Levine. I am, I suppose, the tax section lead on the child tax credit comments that have been drafted and submitted, as well as some comments that we might have coming down the road, and been quite active over the past 6 to 12 months on child tax credit issues, both with respect to the already passed advanced child tax credit and what will come down the pike in new legislation. I just want to take a few minutes because the main show is right ahead of us and I don't want to take up too much airtime here, but just to kind of give you a rough setting of why we're doing this today and why we've decided to team up with the folks from Code for America. I've been working with these folks now for several months and felt that this was a really good opportunity to give our tax section members the ability to do pro bono work. And in this case, it'll potentially pro bono work from the comfort of their bedroom or living room or any couch you want to curl up on. So what's great about this opportunity is that it allows us to partner, the ABA tax section, to partner with Code for America, and in essence do VITA returns, and those would be low-income taxpayer returns, but not have to actually go into the clinic, not have to wait for tax season, and instead being able to do this whenever you have available time, in advance, once you've completed a training exercise that Billy and his friends will discuss with us shortly. Couple of things just to note. I started off as a tax lawyer at a Big Four in a practice office. First thing I was handed was a tax return and said, what am I going to do with this thing? I didn't learn this in law school. While it was a trying few months to figure out how to fill out tax returns, at least these were corporate returns, but they're all complicated. It's an invaluable skill to have as a tax lawyer to understand how to read a tax return and work with a tax return. So first, let me start there. Second, for those of you that are thinking, well, this is low-income taxpayer stuff, probably pretty simple, but I'm happy to help. Great that you're happy to help. Not so simple, it turns out. Some of the provisions you'll have to learn about and to be able to help file these returns are just as complicated as some reorg provision or some cross-border M&A transaction. So, so get ready for some excitement there. The training that this will provide, I think, is great training for both folks who are both in the transactional world, also in the litigation world. You'll learn how to work with clients on certain matters, if depending on how the intake process works. But most importantly, you're going to learn a series of tax laws that you're not probably that familiar with in many cases. Why are we doing this? Why is this so important? The primary reason is that we're here to just not help our clients that come in our door and or pay our fees, but we're also here to help all these low-income taxpayers that are really in need, and especially more than ever. The child tax credit, which is a great way to lift more and more families out of poverty. There's an estimate, though, that still over 4 million children haven't been able to get the benefits for their families. And that's either because they haven't completed a tax return or don't know about the non-filer form that's a relatively new phenomenon. And so this training will shed some light on that and increase your knowledge of the process for those folks to be able to get their benefits, or maybe you should say a little better, to get their credit. Lastly, I just want to mention that, and I think I said this already, that the VITA sites that we tend to think about, that you maybe are familiar with when you were in law school, or maybe more recently if you've been volunteering for VITA several years, are only, as I mentioned, they're only open sometimes little parts of the year. Now this process that we're going to hear about from the Code for America folks are going to explain how this is become a year-round process, and you can work it into your schedule whenever you need to. You don't need to say, I'm taking a day off to go spend the day at a VITA site. You can say, I have 2 hours tonight that turned out I didn't think I had, and open your laptop and log on and possibly file a return or help a low-income taxpayer with an issue. I do want to mention one last thing before I hand it over, and that is a programming note that I don't think I heard, so I'm going to mention it real quickly. Is tentatively, and I think tentatively can be removed, we're going to have on Tuesday, September 14th, probably early afternoon, like maybe 1 to 2:30, a panel with some very distinguished speakers. I'll be moderating. I'm not one of the distinguished people. And we'll be talking about the advanced child tax credit and the policies around it and where it goes from here. So I would suggest when you receive a link for registration, you sign up. I think you'll learn a lot from the discussion. It might help you with this process as well. And I think it's really where a lot of the current administration's efforts are going in the tax world. So I think I would tune in, and remember that's Tuesday, September 14th. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to a few of our guests from Code for America. We have Billy Lim, Annalise Grimm, and Matt Mitchell. Matt, sorry, your name doesn't rhyme with the other two, but we'll work on that. So with that, Billy, let me hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Scott. Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be working from. My name is Billy Lim. I'm the senior organizer with Get Your Refund at Code for America. And it's a pleasure to be speaking to all of you today. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making the time. We really appreciate it. And as Scott and Meg have made clear, this is really urgent work. This is a historic opportunity to get flexible cash into the hands of families that traditionally miss out on it year after year. And the opportunity we have, particularly with the advanced child tax credit, is potentially an opportunity that will expire. The Biden administration has supported this advanced CTC effort, but we don't know whether or not that's going to extend past this next year. As far as I know, maybe other people have some secret information. That's my understanding. And so the clock is ticking. I want to, before we go into any of this, I want to center our conversation a little bit on the client and the people that I know Meg and others on this team have been serving for years through VITA. I myself, for a little bit of context, I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My parents are refugees from Cambodia. They escaped a genocide called the Khmer Rouge in the late 70s. My dad was a pizza delivery driver growing up, and my mom was never gainfully employed. I was, as a kid, I was in this household. I was mostly translating documents for my parents, trying to help them figure out how to do these things without obviously having any understanding. It's really stressful for taxpayers or people who have never filed to try to engage with this process. My parents never filed. There was a belief that they didn't have to. And that's a belief that a lot of low-income families have. And because of that, in a household of 5, where my dad was making less than $10,000 a year for 5 people, a few more thousand, any extra money could have changed the game for us. I personally believe that the work that we do at Code for America and at Get Your Refund and in the CTC effort is life-changing work. It will change lives. And to the extent that all of you are here and have passion for this work, you have knowledge, you have expertise that none of the rest of us have. I am not a tax lawyer. I do not have any of those skill sets. But with those skill sets that you bring, you will be enabled to help so many families get the cash that they need. Centering the user, which is it's a fancy tech term that we use, but centering the client or the people we serve every single day and at the heart of our work we keep that at the top of our minds whenever we're doing volunteering. And I know that all of you have that priority at heart. And we could not be more grateful that you're here and willing to jump in. And so we will give you more details, but I just wanted to norm that, this is historic and really tangible help that we're getting to families. It does not get more real than money. That's what I'll say. And so I'm gonna pass it on at this point to my colleague, Annalise Grimm, and she can introduce herself and give you a little bit more information about CFA, this program and the need here. Annalise, if you want to jump in.
Thanks, Billy. I really appreciate you sharing your story there. So my name is Annalise Graham. I'm the Associate Program Director for Tax Benefits at Code for America. And first, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are as an organization. The Code for America is a nonprofit. We're based in San Francisco, And we partner with government to strengthen the delivery of public services through human-centered technology. So what that means is that we build technology tools that help people access the public benefits that they deserve. We work on things like SNAP in California, integrating applications for multiple benefits in a couple different states. We work on automating record clearance, and our most recent work is on tax benefits. Next slide, please, Billy. And we've talked a lot about sort of what's at stake here, but just to double down for an example family here, a single parent living in California in a typical year could get around $5,700 in the form of the EITC and other yearly benefits. But right now, because of the stimulus and because of that advanced child tax credit, there's another $8,000 that that person could get, bringing their total to almost $20,000 a year. So I mean, that when you imagine someone who's making $10,000 suddenly being able to get $20,000 worth of tax benefits, this is really, really life-changing. Head to the next slide. So who is likely to be missing out here? Who are we talking about who's sort of in this gap? We often refer to them as non-filers. And it's frankly the people who need the benefits the most. So the best data that we have on this is from California. And we see that it's folks on public benefits that are most likely to have not filed a tax return. And often that has to do with complex family situations and a lot of misinformation, folks thinking that they might not be able to file a tax return or they might be actually prohibited from doing so. And then there are a lot of barriers around just the process being way too difficult for folks to get through, and it being frankly traumatizing for people to have to put a lot of things on paper that they don't like to see. So we see that people stop filing when there's a death in the family, a divorce, the loss of a job, things that really disrupt the family situation and make their tax situation more complicated and make it feel more overwhelming for them to be able to file. So if you head to the next slide, Billy, we built 2 years ago a product called Get Your Refund, which is basically a matchmaking site. So it's a collaboration with the VITA program where clients can come online, upload their information. So they take pictures of their tax documents and fill out some basic intake questions on a mobile-friendly website. And then we pair them with a volunteer to prepare their taxes remotely. So this is Get Your Refund, the sort of classic version. We power the entire thing through volunteers. And throughout the tax season, we're able to prepare over 90,000 returns and deliver $328 million to low-income families across the country. The challenge is that now most of our VITA sites are closed. It's what we call the off season. And we still have clients coming in the door. And the clients that are coming in now are actually the higher need clients. So if someone's showing up on getyourrefund.org right now, it's likely because they've never filed taxes before or they haven't filed in several years. And all the outreach that's been happening over the past couple of years to try to get folks to file hadn't reached them until now. So they're likely in the groups of folks that are a bit harder to serve. And so at this moment, when we are really reaching the people who we designed this service for, we don't have the volunteers from the sort of typical VITA sites to be able to support actually preparing the returns. So we've created a new model that we're calling the National VITA Sites. And that's a set of folks that are organized remotely to manage volunteers and pair them with some of our highest performing VITA sites that are able to stay open through the off season. And then we'll be able to match these non-filers, so the folks that are really in need of that tax prep service, with volunteers that we're directly managing. So we're really excited to be recruiting for those sites now, and that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And then the next piece is our simplified tax filing portal, which is a brand new service that we're launching this week, actually. And that is a simplified process to just claim the child tax credit or stimulus payments. So there's a new revenue procedure out from the IRS that allows people who do not have a filing requirement to fill out a simplified tax return. Most folks have been trying to do this through the IRS non-filer portal, which is not user-friendly, it's not available in Spanish, it has a lot of challenges in terms of the way it presents questions to folks that can be really confusing. And so we basically took that same revenue procedure from the IRS and built our own tool in response to it that will be mobile friendly. It's building off of a lot of what we learned through Get Your Refund in terms of how to ask questions in a really simple, straightforward way to clients. And we're starting to test it with folks on the ground this week, and we'll be launching it publicly in the next couple of weeks. The challenge with this is that we know that a good proportion of folks will be able to get through this on the first try, but there will be many folks with slightly more complex situations that will either need to be referred over to get your refund to file a full return, or they're going to need some troubleshooting assistance. And so we're looking to recruit folks who are willing to engage with some of those folks, either on the front end as they're filling out the form to answer some questions that they might have and help them understand whether or not this process is the right process for them. And then also for folks who submit through this process and then get their return rejected by the IRS, which we do expect to see quite a few of those, help them resolve that rejection. So often folks might be rejected because someone else has claimed their child, or because they actually already filed through the non-filer portal, but they need to figure out how to update their bank account information, or maybe they're a victim of identity theft. So we're going to need a volunteer force to be sort of staffing that process and helping folks figure out what went wrong and get it cleared up so they can get their benefits. So that's the simplified tax filing portal. And then I'll pass it over, I think, to Matt, is that right? To talk a little bit about how exactly we're going to plug volunteers into this process.
It's back to me.
Oh, sorry.
Funny thing, we were all named Matt Mitchell earlier when we came into the Zoom, but more for a post-session talk. So I want to go over the volunteer need and the opportunity here. So a lot of you might be wondering, okay, so you know, I've had interest in this. This is work that I think is meaningful. It's work that I think that I can do, but I need more specifics. And so to give you a little bit of a rundown. So on average, our volunteers are providing virtual assistance around 4 to 10 hours per week during the off season. That's what we're finding. That is great. Obviously, more hours are always awesome if you have the capacity, if you have the time. That just means that we're able to process more returns and help more people. And even a single return, as you probably know, can net thousands and thousands of dollars for an individual family. And so every single bit counts, every hour matters. Whatever you can do and the most that you can do would be wonderful. In terms of some of the benefits that I know Scott went over a little bit, it's flexible service hours. It's completely remote. You can do it from the comfort of your home. We provide full onboarding training and VITA certification support. In terms of the onboarding training, we have an internal case management platform called the Hub that we'll be going a little bit over later in this presentation. That is probably the most technical sort of learning you'll need to do outside of the actual VITA certification. We'll go more into what level of certification you'll need depending on the role, but we'll have full support for you in terms of that. And then lastly, there's probably no scarcity of these types of folks in your line of work, but there's a beautiful community of passionate, dedicated VITA volunteers, people who have been working in the tax benefit space for years. We are building this community virtually. It is interesting, really cool work to be building a digital distributed volunteer community that is, over this past season, as Annalise mentioned, we raised $312 million. That's how much benefit we were able to get to families. And so if you can be a part of that community, we invite you in with fully open arms. We'd love to have you. So these are the volunteer roles that we have codified so far. And these are really roles that we have tailored for you, to be frank, which is great because we know that you come with a certain level of expertise, many of you. You're embedded in this work, and there might be particular options that work better for all of you, which is great. And so we worked with Meg to discuss what are the types of options that folks might be interested in. If you have any questions about this, please put it in the chat box. We'll get to any questions. But for a general overview, our roles align strongly with the traditional VITA model. And so to start out, we have an intake specialist role. This is someone who is meeting the client at the front door, so to speak, helping them determine next steps, troubleshoot any initial intake problems that they might have regarding information or documents that they submit. This is a hugely important option because it eliminates the bottleneck of erroneous info that might get to the tax preparer and disallow the tax preparer from being able to process the return. So it's a hugely important role. Would invite people to take that up. As has also been mentioned, we are building out a navigation and intake hotline for getctc.org, which again is launching this week. In that role, you'd be talking to clients about their tax situation, providing really direct support for folks who will have a lot of questions, especially if they've never filed or they have not done that in a few years. And so helping them get started with the right service, what we call triage, is hugely important as well. It saves us time and it helps the client feel more secure and clear in what's happening with their return. Tax preparer, that is a central role, especially for when doing full service returns. If you're not doing the CTC work, hop into our National VITA site, do the tax prep work, help get these returns fully prepared. It requires advanced certification. That is the level of certification that we ask all volunteers to try to get. Getting that level of certification, we have found, will prepare you to tackle minimally the vast majority of returns that you will expect to see. And so you will receive support in getting the advanced certification. We also need quality reviewers, just reviewing the returns to make sure they are spot checked and ready to go. Second to last, we have a reject response team. And so going back to the CTC option, this is a new sort of role / team that we're experimenting with. And so folks on this team would help clients resolve rejected CTC and economic impact payment returns submitted through the simplified filing portal. And again, advanced certification and additional CTC training would be asked for here. And then lastly, for folks that have bilingual ability, language access is so important for so many of the clients that we serve. You cannot even begin to think about filing taxes if you can't speak the language in which our system operates by default. That's not fair. If you are someone who is a Spanish speaker, that is the language that we are prioritizing right now because there's such a high need there. Let us know. We'll have an option on the sign-up form where you can indicate, hey, I'm open at helping do translation. Let me know what you need. I can speak Spanish. Great, we'll get you in there. So there are a number of different avenues to get plugged in at different levels, and again, at different levels of capacity that you may have. We just want you with us. And lastly here, for people who are more visually inclined, you're like, okay, Billy, I get the mission, I get what the roles are, but like, how does this actually work in terms of process? And so I want to briefly go over the two processes. One for online VITA, which will have, this process is what transpires at the national sites. And then I'll go over what we're building out for GetCTC. So for the online full service return option through the national sites, a client will come to us. They'll get answers to questions. They'll answer questions and get your refund through our initial intake. They'll upload their IDs, they'll upload their documents. Our intake specialist, that first touch point, crucial, will review all of the information, make sure that they are ready to actually proceed. They'll call the client if necessary, complete the review. The ticket is then assigned to the tax preparer if they're ready to go. Tax preparer completes the return. It's then quality reviewed. After, if necessary, there will be more questions. This will be confirmed with the client that the review is complete. The client provides their e-signature, and then we transmit the return. And hopefully, the return is accepted. Which with VITA, the return accuracy is quite high. So we provide a really reliable service here. In terms of the GetCTC online portal, somewhat similar, but dramatically simpler. So the client will answer questions through initial intake. They'll upload their IDs or documents. But once they've completed this online process, the return is transmitted straight to the IRS. If necessary, there will be an intake specialist who will provide coaching to the clients through our Get CTC pool. They'll resolve any complications or issues as they can off the bat and try to resolve any potential rejects. And from there, the return is either accepted or rejected automatically by the IRS. We are proud to have recently become an e-filer with the IRS. And so, this is able to be a fast process, but it is one that we are currently building out. So there might be questions around this. There might be, there might be tweaks that happen to front load for you, but it's part of building a resilient and better and better service for now and for the years to come, potentially. So I'm going to pass it over at this point to Mr. Matt Mitchell. And Matt, it's all yours.
Hi, my name is Matthew Mitchell. I'm a product and community organizer with Get Your Refund. And I wanted to just kind of talk about, certification. It's certainly, we've seen some people asking about that already in questions. And I can also speak as someone who came to Get Your Refund initially as a volunteer and first came in through our materials and support. So for certification, for that intake specialist role, the setup is that there are 2 short IRS certification tests that are very simple. They're about 10 questions, open book. But along with that, the other roles, and increasingly, I think the intake specialist role would benefit from that advanced certification. And so I wanted to just actually throw to Pat Gentile really quickly just to talk a little bit about his experience both with getting advanced certification, teaching or prepping others to do so, and just kind of what that time commitment looks like.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Pat Gentile, and I have been a certified volunteer advanced tax preparer. I am a CPA here on the East Coast as well, and I've been preparing tax returns under the VITA flag for almost 10 years. And I have had the great honor to work with the Code for America tool, and most of all our returns now here on the East Coast, at least in Connecticut where I am, we do virtually 100% without ever speaking to the client. What's great about the advanced certification process is that there are amazing tools that will allow you quickly to go through modules, especially the IRS Link and Learn tool, which is a phenomenal tool which will allow you all to go through all the modules for the advanced certification level within a quick time frame. We also have other tools available through the Taxpayer Opportunity Network, through Prosperity Now. So there is a whole host of tools that will allow you to advance certify, and I highly recommend it because, especially with our legal colleagues here, you folks are probably the best tax advocacies we can ever imagine, and your empathy and your ability to reach out to clients having advanced certification would be critical to making sure that they have all the resources they need to maximize their benefits. In terms of time, the advanced certification probably requires somewhere with the Link and Learn modules or other the taxpayer opportunity modules will take probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 hours of study prep, and then there is an exam every year that has to be taken to recertify. In addition to the 2 smaller exams that Matt had mentioned, there's an advanced tax prep course that's about 40 questions open book, which is can be relatively done in the comfort of your home over a certain period of time. So once you've advanced certified, you will be able to handle all the nuances of all the most difficult returns that we have. There are other modules as well that will allow you to certify for foreign students as well as international clients, and you're welcome to take those as well to gain additional breadth and expertise. But the advanced certification it really allows our preparers and our intake specialists to be able to really do a deep dive with the client and make sure that they've asked all the questions, relevant questions. As Scott mentioned, there is nothing simple about a simple tax return. The nuances and the interrelationships between the child tax credit and the recovery of stimulus, and whether or not a parent is has a legal Social Security number or not. There are so many nuances to try to maximize benefits that if you folks are interested in doing advanced certification, it would be an enormous, powerful. It would make an enormous, powerful impact on being able to help as many clients as we can in the off season. So that's basically the advanced cert, and I highly recommend it if you'd like to join us, and really lean in and help a lot of clients this off season. Thank you.
Cool. Billy, can you pop back one slide? So Pat already said a lot of that, but I just wanted to say that, VITA is set up as something that could be done by everyday community members. Certainly I being initially in that volunteer community and seeing some of the people we worked with, we have worked with people with, tax background or accounting, but we've also just had people who are genuinely interested in doing this, who took the certifications, who got through that process. Additionally, some of the folks that are working with and supporting this national site program come from very excellent high-performing VITA sites and also create a lot of their own additional learning tools. So we have a great collection of those. And then the greatest learning tool, as Billy kind of talked about before, is our wonderful active community of volunteers. There are people in here who have run VITA sites, who have trained more people than are even in this virtual room to work on this from all different kind of backgrounds, and they are super eager to help and respond to questions. So the sheer quality of knowledge and excitement around supporting new people in this community is pretty amazing. And so it's been a really great place for long time and new time people to pop into. So and if you could just go to the next slide. Hey. And so talking about that, we wanted to talk about our Get Your Refund website, which is also kind of supporting the Get CTC and the back end of it, which we refer to as the hub. So in this is kind of a client management system, and it allows us to kind of search through and look at these different clients as they're coming in and get really specific about when they're coming in, what their needs are, and those tools. Can pop to the next slide. Also, the clients are assigned to people, and the kind of access to that information that the clients are uploading as they apply, as they go onto that website or that app and say, I would like to get involved, is really useful and impactful for something that is a virtual exchange when they're not necessarily bringing all their documents to head with you. They can put information around their contact, banking info. Additionally, documents can be securely uploaded, which we know is very important for this process of how do we get these most important documents in a safe place that both the clients and then also the volunteers can access, can look at and say, if this is the wrong year, I need this additional material. And then next slide. And then along with that, we've also built in the expectation with a client when they sign up to opt in to being contacted by text or email. This definitely helps, and also it is an internal thing. You're not having to use your personal email. Additionally, part of the VITA process involves a phone call around intake and then a phone call at the end around quality review, just to talk through where the return is. And so in that, you're able to also call clients through the website. And additional, there's a notes and there is that messaging system, which really allows us to kind of do the handoff both internally with fellow volunteers if we were moving further in the process, but also to let the clients know that, hey, we're working on this. We might need a little bit of extra time, but this is important to us, and we're trying to get this set and perfect as quickly as we can. So again, just it's a site that and a process that I think is very intuitive. And it's a community that is willing to accept people that are totally new into this. And certainly can also throw to Pat to talk about a little bit of the skills that we think you have that would be beneficial for this kind of get your refund work, and especially around the CTC intake and the kind of particular clients and questions that they would have.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So yeah, definitely, working with many of my legal colleagues here as well, and knowing the breadth and strength of the ABA colleagues on this call, your analytical skills and your ability to be empathetic with the client and to be able to merge those two together in a way that you're able to communicate to them, to give them a feeling of trust and credibility, and making them feel safe and secure online by texting is critical. The fact that you folks know how to go through go through decision matrix to be able to connect the dots with various different rules and regulations, especially as it relates to the complexities of the child tax credit and maximizing the unrecovered stimulus that might also come about because of the child tax credit, and being able to ask the probing questions that that you're trained to do as legal experts, as legal people, to ask those additional questions to find out whether or not the client might be entitled to other benefits, most notably the earned income credit, which is one that's left on the table so often because many of them don't realize that even though they earn just a little bit of money, if they have several children and they put them on their tax return, the credits that they can get from the EITC are enormous in addition to the child tax credit and stimulus. So all of these attributes, all of these strengths that you bring to the table as attorneys and as legal counsels and advocates, like advocation is really the most important part. Taking this upside down tax code and having you folks turn it around for these people is really the manna from heaven to help these people maximize and get the benefits they deserve. So I think that your skill set, your training is just ideal for what we need to help these people who are at a point right now that are tremendous anxiety at this point. I mean, I've just got off the phone with a couple of people living in homeless shelters and hotels, and they are just so eternally grateful for the help and guidance that we can provide them. So I think you bring that type of skill set to the table, which would be enormous to help these clients. Back to Matt.
Actually, I think we're just moving on to Billy, right, to talk about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All good. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Matt. Before I move on, I just want to raise for people that this case management platform, the Hub, has come a long way in the last year. I think that it is something that our volunteers really, really appreciate. And there's also an appetite oftentimes that we see within our volunteer community to improve it, to make it better and better. And we want to flag for you that we are voracious for your feedback. We want to learn what works and what doesn't. And your participation in this, in addition to the skill sets you bring as lawyers, your ability to center the client in your work, we also need to know from you, how can we improve this for the future? What can we take with us into next year to make this a better and better experience, not just for the client, but for you, who's doing this work on the back end. We are very curious to hear what the experiences will be. Just want to flag for people that feedback is welcome, and we have open ears for that. So there's really not too much left in terms of content here. The possibly most important slide of all, volunteer sign up. It is an easy to remember link, c4a.me/GYR national site sign up. This will also be where you can indicate any interest in the CTC volunteer opportunity. We will have the roles as described in this info session delineated directly on the sign up form. And for a little bit more context, we need your help too, just spreading the word. If you have connections within your community to place-based organizations, to other just networks around where you are, of people who could benefit from the CTC, who could benefit from the EITC, let them know that getyourrefund.org exists. Let them know that getctc.org exists. Because we want to help as many people as we can while there's still time. And October 15th is coming right around the corner. I was at Walgreens the other day and the Halloween stuff is coming up. So, so we don't have a lot of time left. Walgreens is telling us. But in all seriousness, October 15th will be the closing of e-file. It's really, truly right around the corner. And most low-income filers can still file until then without penalty. But that's really the date that, where we're closing up shop. So we need your help while we can still leverage it and work together to get a lot of cash into the hands of people who need it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your commitment, for your passion. Thank you so much for bringing all that you specifically bring as members of the tax section, but as part of the pro bono group. We know that I would assume that signals something about your convictions about how things should work in the world and what justice looks like. So please contact us with any questions. Easy email, volunteer@getyourrefund.org. That's it. Again, there's a sign up link. And at this point, I want to I want us to address any questions that may have been flagged in the chat that might pertain to everyone. So I'll hand it over to Matt or others on the team to raise up any questions that seem pertinent to the whole group.
Great. I saw one or two questions that I feel I can answer, and then I might kind of throw to some, but they're both overlap around looking at state tax returns for the National VITA program. And then was also asked, can connections be to assist be set up geographically? Legal aid organizations often have a specific coverage area. The way that we are doing our national site is generally state or region based, just because we are doing state returns. And we are working with folks that at least have some familiarity along with some guides to handle those areas, but just the back and forth of handing volunteers returns from different sides of the country and all different states would be a little bit kind of confusing, or spend a lot of time in those materials. So that basically right now most of our teams are California is kind of enough of its own entity where we have California teams essentially, but most of our other teams are usually handling 2 or 3 states connected to each other, often with overlap, along with some states that do not have tax returns there and are kind of federal only return group. And I guess also looking at another question that I think is good. Annalise, I saw that you were answering a question in here. Would you be willing to answer that now?
Sure. The question was, it seems like the majority of help is needed with tax filing and not with the simple filer tool. Is that accurate? I would say we need help with both. For your particular skill sets, some of the places that I think you could be most helpful would definitely be in helping folks file those full returns. Filing a full return is the way that the clients get the most money. So they get the CTC, any stimulus checks that they might be missing out, and then credits like the earned income tax credit and other state credits. So whenever possible, whenever clients have the documents needed, we are trying to push as many clients into that full service process. And that's the place where I think we need really expert folks the most for that tax prep. We also are going to need a lot of folks, and this is where you would need less training, but more sort of ability to engage with the clients in that sort of initial phase of intake and navigation, where we're really trying to help the clients understand which service is best for them, and based on the documents they have, their family situation, whether they should be trying to file a full return or using the simplified form, or going on one of the IRS portals to be able to do things like update banking information, for example. Those are the places that I'm currently seeing the most need, but frankly, across all those different levels, wherever you see yourself sort of fitting in with the kinds of certification you're willing to get, with the sort of level of engagement that you want with clients, we really need folks across all of those. I also want to pass it to Pat in case he has anything to add there. Pat's running our hotline and also really leading on a lot of the CTC work. So
Yeah, no, that's, thank you, Annalise. No, the points are well taken. We certainly can use the help of your expertise in intake and trying to make sure that we're getting all the information that we need to properly help the client to maximize the CTC, asking the right questions, making sure that all their dependent children are claimed. We use a lot of simple texting tools to help them, as well as phone discussions with them with them in terms of trying to understand their entire profile, making sure that, like Annalise said, we're not leaving anything on the table. That if there are other credits like the earned income tax credit, we're helping them, pushing them to that point so that we can get them into the system to maximize their benefits, making sure that if they need help where maybe somebody has already claimed a child, how to give them guidance. So we're providing a lot of, not only we're providing from the intake side where you can make a real impact, but you're also providing what I call aftercare. So they have questions, they may not know where to go or how to help themselves if they need to file an affidavit to the IRS to say somebody else has claimed my child wrongly. So there are a lot of great legal aspects here of really leaning in and helping these people that because of their situation, because they may be homeless or maybe because they've been taken advantage of illegally, that you can help and really make a difference in giving them guidance on how to help resolve those types of situations. So I think once again, with the skill sets that you folks have, the ability to leverage your skill set and ability to help all of these people get to that next level are just enormous.
Great. I wanted to, we had some questions kind of gathered up and I want to see if we could answer these in a little time. We have, I'm going to go for this one and maybe Megan can even answer this. I think I know the answer, but I'd like to ask, are attorneys required to be VITA certified in order to do this work on a pro bono basis?
I would not complete a tax return without being VITA certified, probably. I mean, you run into issues of, various issues with your licensure if you're performing tax preparation without proper training and certification. So, I mean, my strong suggestion, if you're going to be preparing tax returns, would be to go through the VITA certification process.
Awesome. Yeah, my thoughts too, but I didn't know. Great. So someone was asking if there is any access to recourse other than starting out via online through Get Your Refund or the Get CTC online portal. Let's see if I
think I might, let me know if I'm not understanding this question correctly. I think this is asking about how clients get to us. And we do also have what we call valet or drop-off services, where either VITA sites or now increasingly with the simplified filing tool, we're seeing sort of non-VITA organizations that are doing pop-up events at schools and other locations where people can connect with us in person and have a volunteer play that intake role in person. And then the information is loaded into our system and then we match you with a tax prep person or help you use the simplified filing tool. We do have some in-person resources out there, but those are all organized by other organizations. We don't host those volunteers for in-person sites ourselves.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of pop-up sites here on the East Coast, and we've used a lot of our legal colleagues from Hartford Legal Aid and New Haven Legal Aid, who have been amazing. They've all passed certifications for being intake specialists, and we have found that we were able to, in like just 4 pop-ups here in the East Coast, talking about 15 hours of amazing legal time. We did about 150 interviews that where they did the intake face to face, and then our tax preparers remotely prepared the returns for them in like 3 days. So it was just an amazing, once again, the talents that you folks have are just incredible, and to be able to leverage off of them and to really make a difference. And many of these people had never used our services before, never used a VITA site before. About 90% of them never knew we existed. So it was really, really just an incredible collaboration. So I'm so excited that you folks are going to be joining us, because I know the impact that all our legal aid societies here across the country have made, and I know that it's just extraordinary.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate the importance of a strong intake interview. We did the same throughout tax season at the VITA site that I work at here in Washington, D.C. We spent the whole tax season doing certain volunteers did intake in person, and then we uploaded the documents to get your refund and use that to do the returns. So as a person who is like medium on tax stuff, I used Get Your Refund all tax season, and I absolutely loved it. If you're nervous about TaxSlayer, the software that they use to prepare the returns, then highly recommend the intake role, as you can use Get Your Refund, which is very user friendly, and avoid some of the other scarier tech things. And the intake interview is incredibly important in determining, how the rest of the tax return will proceed, and so then the tax preparer knows how to go about completing the return. So just reiterating what Pat said.
Yeah, Meg is right. If a great intake is done, 90 to 95% of everything is right there for the tax preparer, and we can really get in there and do a return like in 10 minutes, because you folks have done all the heavy lifting for us, which is really, really critical, really critical.
I just want to throw in, someone was asking about where are we getting our clients. I mean, it is some, paid and earned media, but also it's a lot of these partnerships. It's a lot of these sites that are closed right now, but are still trying to find new ways to help their community, do pop-ups. Like a lot of our partners during tax season see what we're doing as an opportunity to still be in their community, to still have someone they can point to when someone calls them and they have to say we're closed or it's out of season. So we're really building kind of a grassroots network, along with trying to put out some little snazzy ads and stuff like that to direct people.
Yeah, to Matt's point, a bottom-up approach is really, really the most resourceful and impactful, because those sites like child first agencies, child care agencies, where there are caseworkers out in the field, organizations like the food banks and the diaper banks across the country that have a population of people that trust them, where the population comes in, they know the people that they're dealing with. And when those people say, hey, come to Get Your Refund or come to get CTC, because that is a trusted site that we endorse, well, that is a game changer, because that builds that amazing credibility. So a bottom-up grassroots approach we have found is the strongest. And then the top-down approach as well, where you're working with the state and local levels also helps build that credibility. So working both bottom-up and top-down really can make an exponential impact on the number of people that we can get comfortable with using our service.
If I may jump in, I believe we are at time, and so Meg or Julie, if anyone wants to add any last words, please feel free to jump in. But I do want to just close out by saying thank you on behalf of the CFA and Get Your Refund team. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. The challenge I want to put to you: sign up today. Sign up today. Sign up today. Sign up today. Do not wait, because we need you now. The clock is ticking, and we could not be more grateful for your help. So thank you from the Get Your Refund team. And I'll hand it off to anyone who wants to close out, Julie or Meg.
Yeah, I'll close that. Thanks, Billy. And you took some words right out of my mouth, which are first, thanks to everybody who's listening today. Thanks so much to Meg and Scott and the Get Your Refund team, which you guys are just amazing. Really appreciate it. And please do sign up today. Keep with this momentum. It's so hugely important. If you guys have a minute more, I will want to just mention a couple of upcoming programs that we have. People who have questions about the advanced CTC, we've got a poolside chat. This tax section does on August 23rd. That's going to be from 1 to 2:30. And Meg is going to Eastern, everything's Eastern, you know, but even though we're in most of us are in San Francisco. Anyway, poolside chat, Meg is posting the information right now. As far as the link to registration, you also can go on the tax section's website, and a lot of this information is going to be available there. Scott mentioned this September 14th webinar. It's going to be, again, addressing a very important issue about trying to keep the child tax credit going into the future, and in what challenges and opportunities legislators are going to face when addressing that issue. And that's going to have Jacob Golden, who's associate professor at Stanford, Nina Olson, who's the executive director for the Center for Taxpayer Rights, and also the head of the U.S. Office of the Taxpayer, former U.S. Head of the U.S. Office of the Taxpayer Advocate, and Elaine Mogg, who's a principal research association at the Tax Policy Center, which is a Irving-Brookings partnership. And also a government representative. So I'll start cast, and we hope you'll join us for that panel as well, and talk to your legislatures about that important issue. We're going to post the recording for this session, so tell your friends, urge them to sign up too, and again, just appreciate everybody, panelists and audience today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.